This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, July 26th, 2023. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. The Biden administration is joining Republicans in support of completing the Mountain Valley Pipeline. Alex Sawyer reports U.S. Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar asked the Supreme Court to lift an injunction on the project. About 20 miles of the pipeline remain to be built. Construction on the pipeline began in 2018. When it's completed, the 303-mile-long pipeline will deliver natural gas from West Virginia to Virginia. Environmental groups argue the U.S. Forest Service bent the rules to authorize the pipeline through the Jefferson National Forest. They also said the pipeline clashes with the Endangered Species Act. Legislation to give small businesses relief from credit card swipe fees has sparked fears that it would also let big retailers muscle into the banking industry. Dave Boyer reports the Credit Card Competition Act of 2023 would direct the Federal Reserve to require credit card issuing banks to offer at least 2 networks for merchants processing electronic card transactions. The measure would prohibit those 2 networks from being Visa and MasterCard, which have the largest market share of cards. New Jersey Republican Congressman Mike Pappas says the legislation would leave consumers with fewer rewards and less access to credit, and that banks won't be able to offer the same variety of credit cards. Credit card processing fees amounted to about $160 billion last year. The Biden administration's push to counter China will reach new heights over the coming days as Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Secretary of State Antony Blinken visit island nations in the South Pacific. National Security Team Leader Guy Taylor reports the two will seek to pursue new military and diplomatic outposts in the hotly contested region. Austin will stop in Papua New Guinea, the first ever visit by a U.S. Defense Secretary. The tiny nation has opened the way for American forces to access its territory in the face of China's growing footprint in the nearby Solomon Islands. Blinken will visit Tonga to dedicate a U.S. embassy there as the State Department beefs up personnel and spending in island nations across the region. House lawmakers will interview U.S. Attorney David Weiss, who was in charge of investigating Hunter Biden for unpaid taxes and lying on a gun background check form. Susan Ferricchio reports Weiss has agreed to testify at a public hearing about the case later this year after criticism and new evidence showing he concealed information from IRS investigators. Investigators also want to interview Weiss's colleague, Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf. And finally, China's government removed Foreign Minister Qin Gang from his post with no explanation after his disappearance from public view last month. Bill Gertz reports Chinese state media said Qin was removed from the position after just 7 months for unspecified reasons after an unusual meeting of the Chinese Communist Party-controlled legislature. Officials and analysts said the unusual firing is a sign of Chinese President Xi Jinping's unchecked power and the fleeting nature of promotions among senior Chinese officials. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.